Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite things to see in books, and that is the exploration of what it means to be human. This video is really just going to be me outlining some of the things that I really enjoy reading about and then highlighting some of my favorite books that have these things in them. In preparing for this video, I did notice it was a lot easier for me to find titles in the sci-fi genre than it was for me to find in the fantasy genre. I kind of had to stretch my thought process and really dive deep into some of the themes within fantasy books to pull out these ideas surrounding humanity. They're there, but they're not as prevalent. I think that they're not as forward-facing as they are in the sci-fi genre, which I find interesting. Not saying that it's not expected, but definitely not something that I was thinking about whenever I was thinking that the exploration of the human condition is something I really enjoy reading about, because fantasy is my favorite genre. So as I was thinking about all of these reads, I didn't actually realize until I put them down on paper that all of the ones I originally was thinking about were sci-fi books. So it doesn't really mean anything, it's just something that I noticed. This isn't necessarily a book recommendations video, although any book that you see me hold up, it's because I physically own it, and if I physically own it, I liked it. I usually don't keep books on my shelves that I didn't enjoy, so just keep that in mind. And I'm not going to go through the synopsis of each of these either as I talk through these stories. I'm really just going to give you the three main focal points that I really enjoy books honing in on when it comes to talking about humanity. And then I'm going to throw in some conversations about some of my favorite books while I'm discussing those three topics with you guys. First, before I get to the conversation though, I do want to say, I know that there are so many more topics that can be covered when we discuss what it means to be human. These are just the three that I have found I am most gravitating towards, at least at this moment in my life. So if you have your own discussions of the human condition or what it means to be human, books that you've really enjoyed that kind of focus on those topics, let me know in the comments down below what the topic is and what the book of discussion is, because I would love to look into them. The first topic that I would like to go through with you guys is the exploration surrounding finding one's path. And this can be done in a lot of different ways. I love the exploration of characters trying to figure out what they need to do, whether or not it's because things have changed for them and they need to figure out how to adapt to their new circumstances. So the first three books that I have that follow kind of that pattern, we have Service Model that has a valet robot whose master has died and he has to figure out what his purpose is now in life, since he can't be a valet for this person anymore. Should he be a valet for someone else? Is there something else that he can do that is useful in this world? So this isn't from a human perspective, but I still think it's a very human component of the story. Another not human story, we have Ancillary Justice, where our character Breck used to be a spaceship that had thousands and thousands of bodies, and now she is down to one. And she has to figure out what she wants to do with the life that she has left. And then you also have a fantasy book with Witness for the Dead. And I'm not going to get into too much of this, but Thora Kelleher is a witness for the dead who can actually speak to the dead. And he's been put in a different circumstance within this book. And then throughout the series, he also has some things happen where he has to figure out his path because things have stood in his way and how he typically does things. I really love all of the exploration surrounding when you have to pivot because that's life. Life usually doesn't go the way that we are expecting it to. And so the stories that are focusing on what we do in the face of adversity, but also in just maybe not adversity, but maybe just something was taken away from you and you can't go that way anymore. The bridge is down. What do you do from here? And I like seeing characters struggle with that and their thought process surrounding those decisions. I also enjoy it when we have characters who are trying to find a new path after they have had one that is successful, they're just not quite sure if it's the right one for them anymore. So this isn't necessarily where we are being forced to change something in our lives. It's we are making the decision to do it regardless because we just don't think it feels right. With Monk and Robot, you're following a character named Sibling Dex, who is a tea monk, and they aren't necessarily sure they want to be a tea monk anymore, and so they kind of go off the beaten path on a journey away from the city that they're in to figure it out if this is really something they still need to do. Bonus, you also have a robot in this named Mosscap who has come back to civilization. Humans haven't seen robots in a very, very long time, and he wants to know what humans need. And so you get to explore that facet of humanity within this story as well, is seeing humanity and things that we find very normal from the eyes of an entity that is not human, and answering a very broad question that is different for everyone and what they need. Another book that kind of follows the same path as far as a character having a path that has been chosen for them or that's working out okay, but they're having conversations throughout the story of not knowing if they really want to be on the path that they're on. But this is a very different world than the Monk and Robot series. Justice of Kings is a grimdark fantasy, and the main character, Helena, has been given an opportunity to be a secretary for a justice, which are some very powerful people within the government. And she comes from the streets. She was literally begging for food, stealing food, making sure that she could survive the night. And she's been given a very cush position with a lot of privileges. But she doesn't know if it's what she wants. She doesn't know if she wants to be in this government system, if she believes in the messaging and the things that are happening within the world. There's so much more to this book, but I just want to focus on that aspect of Helena having a conversation throughout the series, at least the first 2 books that I've read, and whether or not she wants to continue to be in this government system or if she wants to choose a different path. The last kind of facet of finding one's own path that I want to make is one that surrounds the, I guess, remembrance of sorts. So I could have put this in a different category because I do want to talk about legacy as well in this video, but it fits with choosing one's path as well because of what I'm going to say next. So as humans, we all come from someone, mainly our parents, but we also come from different cultures and things like that. And sometimes we want to follow a different path. We don't necessarily want to follow the path that was chosen for us or that our parents think that we should follow, or we just want to step out of the shadow of our parents. Maybe we want to be known for ourselves versus being known for something that our parents did. And I think that the second book in the Kings of the Wild series, Bloody Rose, does that really well. With Kings of the Wild, you have some very, very famous mercenaries, essentially, who are known for killing monsters in this world and saving people. And Bloody Rose is a daughter of one of them, and her crew are a whole bunch of younger individuals who are just trying to make a name for themselves and do that while not losing their history. So these aren't necessarily, I don't necessarily in my books want to see someone stepping away from their history, their culture, which if they do, that's fine. And I think those stories are interesting as well, but I find it really fascinating if a character can want to carve their own path while still honoring their history, but still changing for themselves as well. I think it's a really fine line, I suppose, that authors have to follow to make a character that isn't completely turning their backs on their history, but is still willing to put their foot down and say, no, this is who I am. I'm not always this, you know, whatever my past is showing. So that's another component of humanity that I've really enjoyed in books. The second facet of this discussion on what it means to be human that I would like to focus on is the need to be understood by others, because I think it is inherently human for us to want to be understood, for us to not feel as though we're alone in this world, to feel as though there will be someone there who understands what you're going through thick and thin, and also to kind of add on to that, to value the differences that we have from one another and to see how that makes us stronger as a whole. I think that connects to understanding one another in general, but that's just me. One of the books that came to mind with this was Automatic Noodle, which features a whole bunch of robots that are working together to make this noodle shop run. And they each have different purposes within this noodle shop, and they have to rely on one another. So they have to understand each other's strengths to be able to figure out who is going to be best for which jobs within the noodle shop. There's a lot more that's going on within the story, but that's the component that really focuses on their humanity, even though they're not humans. I think this one is a little bit off the beaten path of this idea of needing to be understood, but I still think it fits, and that's Murderbot. Murderbot really doesn't want to be understood in the beginning of this series, but I do think that he grows to appreciate being understood by these humans that he has been assigned to protect. They're the only humans that have treated him differently than the other people he has been assigned to, and they're the only ones who've given him autonomy, and because of their ability to empathize with his position and to understand where he's coming from, and also have faith in the fact that he will do the same to them, it makes them more of a successful unit, which is what happens in Automatic Noodle as well. Because of the fact that they understand one another, they can work better together in the end, which also connects to some other stories that just feature making sure that you understand other people's cultures and seeing the differences in growing up in different places, being a different species. There's a whole bunch of different things. So the first is The Book That Wouldn't Burn. In this, we have our main two characters come from vastly different areas. One of them is from the dust. She is definitely seen as lesser and has to overcome some of the privileges that her society has not given her. And then you have someone else who has been locked in a library his entire life and definitely has a different lifestyle than our main character. You also have some warring factions within this. So there's a lot of, I think, any of the books, maybe not any, but a lot of the books that I have read that have wars within them have little bits and pieces of humanity stuck in there, because inevitably, if you are at war with somebody, you're probably in contention with understanding what their needs are versus what your needs, or maybe you do understand what they want, but what they want directly goes against what you want. So I think that books surrounding war and people within those societies, I think, is an interesting aspect to look at within humanity. We also have just two individuals getting to know each other that are from different species. Within His Majesty's Dragon, you have a human who is getting to know a dragon, and both of them are new at this. The dragon is freshly hatched, and so he is unaware of human customs, what it means to be human. He also really doesn't have any of his own dragon kind around, so you also get to see him trying to figure out himself and what it means to be a dragon, what to expect from humans. But then you also have his human companion who is trying to understand a dragon's mind and how they think versus how humans think, how they need to make sure they're taking care to explain to one another their thought process and be respectful of where the other one's coming from. So I think that that's really interesting. I think that that also ties into the fourth consort, where we have a character who is literally stuck on an alien planet, and his job is to get them to side with him. And to do that, he has to rapidly understand their culture, which is not, by the way, what his superiors have told him to do. But he realizes very quickly that he's not going to get anywhere with these aliens without actually taking a minute to breathe and give them the time and space that their culture needs to understand why they've made certain decisions, why they might be hesitant to make others, And I think that it's just a really silly way. There are some kind of quirky things in this book. I wouldn't say that this book is funny by any means, but I do think that it handles some of those discussions in a quirky way, in the fact that he's in this really bad situation. He could die, and he is forced to make these decisions and really dive into this alien culture. And some things that he does or has to do are really uncomfortable for him, but it helps him at the end of the day understand where the people he's having these discussions with are coming from. So interesting book, for sure. Definitely one that was at the top of my list when I started thinking about these understandings of individuals, because that's really what the whole book is about, is understanding this alien civilization, even though everyone else around him is just telling him to force the issue. He takes the time to actually learn about the culture that he's being immersed in. The last avenue that I want to take you guys down in this discussion of what it means to be human is my favorite. And that is the discussion surrounding legacy and what it means to be remembered. I love this. I think that if a book can truly dive into what it means to be remembered for an individual character, I eat that up because inevitably we are all meant to end. Our lives will end, and our memories will eventually fade, as well as the people who knew us in life also end. And seeing that in a permanent fixture in a book, I think, I don't know, there's something about it that I just really, really admire in authors being able to tackle something, because I think that it's kind of parallel to why we write stories, right? With storytelling, you have this ability to surpass generations. There are authors that we're reading from that have been long dead, that we never have had the chance of meeting even family members of theirs. And I think that that is just a lovely sentiment, that we can put written words down, and someone in the long future that we will never have the chance to meet will get a chance to read them. So anyway, I'm getting a little sappy, but some of my favorite books that feature this, we have The Delegate Dream Department Store. It's a smaller portion of this because this is really more of a whimsical read, not so much a serious book, but there are some facets in this, in dreams, of having someone dream about a family member who has passed on and who has not maybe had the chance to give you closure, or give, you know, whoever the dreamer is, closure. And these dreams are made specifically for family members, and the person who is deceased is able to provide memories and comfort that this person will understand comes from them. I just really love that aspect of someone thinking about the future after they're gone. There's a quote that I absolutely love, and I apologize, I'm not going to be able to give it to you verbatim or tell you even where the quote is from. It's something that I see just frequently posted places. It says, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit in." I love the sentiment of someone caring about the future past them. I think that that is also a very human component. Not only being remembered, but also having this idea of legacy and wanting to make the world a better place past when you are out of it, I think is quite lovely to see in a book. And I do think that the Delegate Dream Department Store shows that with these loved ones passing on comforting memories and bolstering their future generations and their friends, not only their family, but their friends as well. The next book I will mention is one that I've talked about a lot in regards to legacy, and that's The Last Gift of the Universe. There is a conversation surrounding what it means to be remembered within this story that I can't really go into, other than saying we have some alien civilizations, or some just planets that have been completely decimated, and these two siblings are on a mission to try and figure out what's happening. And within that process, they are looking at how these entire planets are gone and with nothing to show for it. And they have conversations throughout. There's also something else that happens throughout the book that focuses on remembering and what it means to pass on information and pass on your love for your family, your friends, but also your community. And then lastly, to finish this legacy discussion with one of my favorite books of all time, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book does feature legacy in a little bit different way as the previous two examples. This one, if you haven't heard of Addie LaRue, she has made a deal with an entity that essentially means that anyone who looks away from her, goes into a different room, will not remember who she is. And she made this deal for everlasting life and to be free. But she's realized with this deal that she has given up her means of having a legacy, and she spends a lot of her life trying to get that back, which there's so much more to this book, but I loved the components of Addie just looking for ways and dreaming about people remembering her name or remembering her face, and how that turns out in the end, how you do see her make her imprint on history, even though she is never truly fully remembered. Oh, it's so good. One of my favorite books of all time. Definitely focuses on what it means to be remembered and the importance of being remembered. This is more in the light of yourself, wanting yourself to be remembered, whereas the other two really do focus on memories and just family being able to move on, important information being passed on, but all of them involve remembrance in some way. So to kind of wrap up the journey that I've taken you guys on, I had 3 different avenues that I wanted to look at with regards to what it means to be human. We started with understanding oneself, trying to find a path for yourself, regardless of whether or not one has been taken from you, if you've chosen to leave it. And then we also have being understood and valuing each other's differences, understanding the community around you and how you can build a better community with one another. And then to being remembered within that community and also throughout history. So these are 3 components of understanding humanity that I absolutely love in books. I'm sure that there are thousands more that are also focused on within stories, and I would love to hear from you guys what your favorite facets of humanity are in the comments down below. If you're not feeling chatty, but you still want to let me know that you're here, leave me a little smiley face emoji, because we're all human and we're here together. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.